What is good, guys and gals, and welcome to the Films and Pixels Podcast, episode 31. I'm your host, Afif. And if this is your first time tuning in, or if you've tuned in before, I just want to say thank you. It means a lot for you to take your time out of your busy day, your busy schedule, whether in the daytime or nighttime, just to watch and listen to all kinds of topics, whatever I'm saying and all that good stuff. So it means a lot. And I would appreciate your engagement, whether it's liking this video, leaving a comment in the comment section. Of course, it would mean a lot if you share this video. Excuse me. Also, like and follow all of my social media pages available in the description section below. I have the links provided, and I will leave them for you to click by and follow. So it would mean a lot as well, and really thank you. But yeah, without wasting too much time, just want to get on the topics. I've got some good stuff for episode 31, including some news that already has occurred recently, but I think it's a good time to catch up on them. Like Peter Safran and James Gunn announcing a new slate of movies and films and TV series as well for their upcoming DC Universe project. Plus some concerning news regarding Meta and Spotify. Although Spotify is getting more subscribers but losing money. Sort of the same situation with Meta's VR headset division also losing billions of dollars. Another topic, as everyone already knows, Samsung unveiling some new mobile hardware at a recent event. So I want to just break down that whole thing and what they've got in store. Plus, Google's new AI chat system trying to rival ChatGPT. And a strange story regarding Andrea Riseborough and how her Best Actress nomination got her in a Oscars investigation. Sort of a bit weird, but I do want to talk about all that for this episode. So yeah, if you haven't done so before, just subscribe to this channel. It would mean a lot. And I'll try to upload as soon as I can. But yeah, without further ado, let's get going. All right, guys and gals, this first topic I'm actually really excited to talk about. So James Gunn, Peter Safran, they've been appointed as new CEOs of Warner Brothers Discovery, new DCU studios. I think this is a big reboot, definitely a universe reset, and trying to move on from the DCEU. There's still a few films slated to be coming out later this year in theaters, so that's a good thing. But still, with the new projects already announced, at least tentative release dates, it's all really good and exciting, and there is some hope. So I'm going to be talking about that, and I am very excited. So what this means is that later this year, we're going to see DCEU films like Shazam, The Fury of the Gods, The Flash, a Blue Beetle film in the summer, and also Aquaman and the Lost Kingdom from the DCEU. Then it's going to be a universe reset. So DC Universe, a slate of films and TV shows. It's going to be kind of like a phase that we've seen from Marvel Studios. It's going to be called Chapter 1, The Gods of Monsters. Now, in terms of the film projects announced, first I'm going to talk about Superman Legacy. Supposedly, there's a release date for July 11, 2025. Now, it is going to be written by Gunn, and just focusing on Superman balancing his normal life and Kryptonian life, which strangely sounds similar to Spider-Man films we've seen over the past 2 decades. But also another film called The Authority. That's definitely new. It's like Wildstorm characters that are going to be joining the DCEU as the Authority and taking matters into their own hands and doing whatever they believe is right, which kind of sounds like anti-heroes in a way, vigilantism, and so forth. The Brave and the Bold is another interesting one. It seems like it's one of those comic book stories that were inspired by Grant Morrison, and it'll have an introduction of Batman and Damian Wayne as Robin in this film, kind of like a father-son dynamic, so that'll be really cool to see. It's a first for Batman films live action at the very least. Supergirl, Woman of Tomorrow, which will be based on Tom King's comic book series. And yeah, of course, it's going to be a sci-fi adventure about Supergirl. But I mean, I don't know. Will it be as good as the TV series? Because the TV show that mostly lasted on the CW, although the show was like for 6 seasons, but 5 out of the 6 on the CW. Will it be just as good? Hopefully, it's better than the 1984 Supergirl film. That's for sure. And there's the Swamp Thing film, kind of like exploring or investigating the dark origins of Swamp Thing. I mean, I just hope it goes well. I can't help but now, but thinking back how there was like a Swamp Thing TV show. I mean, it was one season, and by the time the first season started, it already got canceled. So that whole situation was kind of weird. But yeah, continuing on with the television projects announced. Uh, Creature Commandos. It's gonna be like a 7 episode animated show with Amanda Waller creating a Black Ops team of monstrous prisoners, sort of like a cartoon Suicide Squad that we're used to. And coincidentally, there's a solo Waller show, although it's more of a live action with Viola Davis expected to reprise her role in the same character, and also feature characters like Peacemaker. So expect John Cena to come back as Peacemaker. Booster Gold. That's a good one. At least I hope it will be a good one. Starring a character that's like using basic technology from the future and trying to be a superhero. So, and Lanterns. It'll be like a true detective kind of story. This will be kind of interesting. It'll have characters like Jon Stewart and Hal Jordan uncovering a dark mystery. I think there's optimism to believe that this Lantern show will hopefully be as good, or I should say, definitely much better than the Green Lantern film. I think the Green Lantern characters being adapted into a TV series, I think the chances of this being successful are high. And then there's also Paradise Lost. So it's basically like a Game of Thrones style show set in Themyscira, home of the Amazons and birthplace of Wonder Woman. That would be good to see with drama and political intrigue on an island of women, so and all that. Now I should mention without forgetting, there's like on this image I'm looking at, there's also a slate of movies separately going to be released later on, known as DC Elseworlds, which includes later this year Joker, Folie et Dieu, sometime in the future The Batman Part 2, a sequel to March 22's The Batman that starred Robin Pattinson. And yeah, there's still Superman and Lois on the CW, and then like the Teen Titans Go TV show. So those are just separate from DC Elseworlds. Once I think the whole DCEU is done, I think then all the focus will go to DC Universe Chapter 1 Gods and Monsters. And it's just funny how James Gunn, who's done working on Guardians of the Galaxy, slated for this May, now will have all his attention here on DC. And also not just the characters, the actors who portrayed some of the characters in recent DCEU films. The door is open if they want to come back, but there's no guarantee anyway, so just keep that part in mind. And I like how Gunn was saying he didn't like how the whole Superman casting issue was handled. It's basically saying, well, like, we didn't fire Henry. He was never casted. He was like in a cameo from the Black Adam film. And a lot of people made assumptions that weren't true. I like him. He's a great guy. I just didn't like how, to say it cleanly, he was kind of tossed around between not knowing what to do or what to do, and then stepping down from his role as Geralt of Rivia from the Witcher series, assuming that he would be back again, spending more time as Superman, and things didn't go the other way. So I understand why James Gunn is frustrated for him, and also taking critical shots at previous leadership, whether it's Joss Whedon or maybe Zack Snyder, on the leadership kind of being really fucked up, and saying how, like, when you put a writer and director in an executive role, then things don't work out, and not having a great approach to very popular IP. So I can see his point of view there, but with Gunn and Safran now in charge of the new DC studios, I mean, I think there's reason to be optimistic. Things are finally looking up. I mean, will it rival the success of Marvel Studios? It's going to take a lot of time. They're very late. But you know what? It doesn't matter. If there's a clear vision, there's a clear path for more success and plenty of victorious moments, I should say, as well. All right, so for this topic, I do want to focus on Spotify. Now, there seems to be some mixed results going on, sort of thing. So I'll try to explain further what I mean. So, in the last quarter of 2022, their premium subscriber base has seemingly gone up. I mean, it went to 205 million premium subscribers, which was up from 180 million premium subscribers around a year and quarter ago. And that's around like a 14% increase. And it was like 195 million in the third quarter. And then monthly users that are like usually active are an average of 489 million and a quarter to quarter. But while the data shows that more users are subscribing, it seems like there seems to be a bit of a financial loss. I'm not sure how or why. Like, despite the gains, they're kind of losing some money. I mean, okay, they did generate 3.17 billion euros, which is equivalent of $3.44 billion in revenue during the fourth quarter of last year, and they posted a net loss of $270 million as well. Or actually, I should say 270 million euros and then equivalent of $293 million. And for comparison, the net loss was like at 34 million euros, $37 million around the fourth quarter of 2021. So I don't know. It seems like their increasing gains are kind of being outweighed by the losses, the financial losses. It's kind of weird. It's kind of weird. It is a step back, but I mean, you know, around the quarter of this year, quarter one of 2023, possibly 207 million subscribers are supposed to be on Spotify as far as expected data concerning. So, you know, and possibly like 500 million monthly active users, which could bring a revenue of 3.1 billion euros and an operating loss of 194 million euros. So I don't know what more Spotify and Daniel Ek can do to, I don't know, bring more users, or I should say like find ways to not lose a lot of money, because it seems like they're gaining subscribers but losing money. It sounds complicated to me. I don't know what's going on and how and why. I mean, I know I just explained the situation, but I don't know. I'm not a accounting guy or a financial expert. It's just weird to me how they're losing money, but at least they still remain popular in the world of Apple Music and Tidal and Anghami and so forth. All right, so speaking of financial losses, I'm going to shift over from Spotify to Meta Inc. And yes, there are some financial concerns right now for Meta Inc., at least regarding their VR division. And it's a bit strange considering that Meta has really invested in acquiring companies that have specialized in VR headsets, especially whether it's like Oculus or I think HTC. I doubt HTC, but definitely they've always invested a lot of money in Oculus for their headsets and VR games as well. So that's a weird thing. And, you know, I have the numbers regarding the money that have come in for them. Like in 2022, they've made a revenue of $116 billion and with a net income of 23 billion. But that's 41% down year on and year to year numbers. And the fourth quarter alone of last year, they only had a revenue of $32 billion with a net income of $4.6 billion, which is 54% down year on year. So that's a weird thing. And the Reality Labs revenue has only made like $2.1 billion. And so the fourth quarter revenue alone is like $727 million, which is 17% down. Now, look, of course, I know what you're thinking. That's still a lot of money. Like, there's no way that sounds like huge losses, making millions and billions of dollars. Like, that's no big deal with all that tech and VR divisions and metaverse and whatever, but it's kind of weird. But I mean, Meta's AR VR Reality Labs division posted an operating loss like nearly $14 billion a year. So, but more like precisely 13.7 billion. So that's still a bit strange. And when you compare to 2021, I mean, they lost like $10.2 billion just by itself. So you could, there are some concerns there. I mean, Meta did buy Oculus VR firm for $2 billion, like in 2014, and then they purchased the VR studio Beat Games in 2019, and VR fitness startup app around that same month. So, I mean, like I said earlier, they've really invested a lot into that kind of technology. But I mean, like even the CFO Susan Lee said that they expect financial losses even more from Reality Labs throughout the year of 2023, considering all that kind of effort that were made to invest. And maybe throughout the decade, their efforts could pay off. But I mean, it just like based on the projections, it just does not seem like it will for the time being. But only time will tell if that can change. So recently, Samsung participated at a Unpack 2023 event, and they unveiled one of their recent new mobile hardware. So their next lineup of their flagship smartphones, the Samsung Galaxy. Now they're going to release the Samsung Galaxy S23, S23 Plus, and S23 Ultra. Now, of course, with all three smartphone mobile models of the Samsung Galaxy line, there's bound to be some differences, and the price does reflect on that, and there's going to be plenty of similarities as well. So first, I will talk about their chipset. They're using the Snapdragon 8 Gen 2 for Galaxy. It's going to have a slightly higher maximum clock CPU core and GPU so it'll be really good. It'll be somewhat similar to past year's Plus variant phones. That's pretty good. And feature a 6.1-inch 1080p AMOLED panel that will be like at least 120 hertz refresh rate with an improved of 1750 nits peak brightness. That's pretty cool. And the battery will be like 3900 milliamps of power. But just keep in mind that wire charge will be like 25 watts. But although I should also mention the S23 Plus has a larger 6-inch AMOLED screen with the same refresh rate and brightness, so that's a good thing. So it's slightly bigger with 4,700 milliamps of battery and can charge up to 45 watts. So I'm assuming that's the more expensive one out of the three. Now, all of these phones do they do share the same camera system of 50 megapixel sensor and can record video up to 8K at 30 FPS. That's really impressive at 8K. I mean, trying to find like 8K TVs are still really expensive. And those are like 12 megapixel ultra wide videos and a 10 megapixel three times telephoto. That's really impressive. With even a 12 megapixel selfie camera, HDR support at 60 FPS, that's really cool. Those are like really the non-foldable phones. Everyone knows the Galaxy Z Fold phones, and those in itself just cost like thousands of dollars. So that's crazy. At least the S23 Ultra does feature a 6.8-inch 1400 pixel AMOLED display that does come with like an S Pen and variable refresh rate of like between 1 to 120 hertz, 5000 milliamp battery, 45 watt charging support. Now, of course, like I know a lot of the specs and detailed analysis and whatever, and how one is better than the other, and what do they all feature, what's different and similar. Yes, we know that. Everyone usually cares about what about the price point. Then they'll figure out the other stuff later. The S23 is at $800, S23 Plus $1,000, S23 Ultra $1,200. So that in itself should tell you what it is. At least the storage for the S23 Plus and Ultra will have like 256 gigabytes instead of 128 that everyone is aware from the S2022 models. And the base spec models of the S23 is still 128, the base one, so just keep that in mind. And like S23 and S23 Plus does offer 8 gigabytes of RAM, so that's really cool. And the Ultra has 12 gigabytes of RAM. And at least they all have like Android 13 with One UI 5.1 out of the box of some sort. And the device will get like 4 to 5 years of like Android updates and security enhancements. And a lot of people say that that's better than usually the common update policies of Google Pixel. So that's I'd say that's really good news for Samsung users. And it's not shocking. It's still one of the more popular mobile brands, not just electronics, but in terms of mobile offerings, the Samsung Galaxy S series, it's always a preferred choice, despite paying a very high premium price, 800, 1,000, 1,200. It's expected. You are getting a lot out of paying a huge amount of money. Me personally, I actually really like the Galaxy A series. I have a Galaxy A phone, so I prefer those, but you get the S phone series, the S23. Yeah, for sure, especially if you're a creator, influencer, whatever, you'll definitely make the most out of them. All right, yay. So, Google. Yeah, Google, of course, they're back in the news again. They just unveiled their newest AI chatbot system, similar to ChatGPT. Yeah, sounds pretty exciting, right? No, definitely not. The whole unveiling hasn't really gone off to a promising start, and it's not going really well. It's certainly hurt them, I should say. It's certainly hurt Google financially, especially their stock. I'm going to talk about how all that really went disastrous, but it did not go well. So there was like a tech demo recently. Uh, so what happened was that an AI Google Google's AI Bard responded incorrectly to a question being asked, what new discoveries from James Webb Space Telescope JWST can I tell my 9-year-old about? In response, Bard answered that JWST took the very first pictures of an exoplanet outside of our solar system. These discoveries can spark a child's imagination about the infinite wonders of our universe, Bard says. And yet, the first image of an exoplanet was taken by the European Southern Observatory's very large telescope in 2004, and this is according to NASA. The timing of this whole error, which was spotted by astrophysicist Grant Tremblay and then reported by Reuters and New Scientist, could have been worse. I mean, it spoiled a week by Google trying to answer Microsoft's highly tech AI advances with using ChatGPT for Bing and Edge, and I think there's something else they're using ChatGPT for. And yeah, it just doesn't look good that Bard, for the time being, has really embarrassed Microsoft, so that's really good. And even Google employees criticizing Sundar Pichai, the Google CEO, for the whole rushed, botched announcement and being comically short-sighted on the whole situation. And their shares dropped down to more than 9%, which already cost them like $100 billion. So yeah, their stock plummeted, losing $100 billion, already 9%. That's still a huge chunk of money they lost. No one wants to lose, and unfortunately, they put themselves in a very embarrassing situation. Yeah, Bard in itself not ready to be used by Google. I don't know if by the public. I will say one thing. a delay really is always beneficial. It really would have benefited Google just to delay the project just a bit further. If the name Andrea Riseborough is not familiar to you, it should be by now, especially if you're someone that likes some of her movies. I remember this one movie with Tom Cruise, I think it's called Oblivion. She co starred with him in that movie, so that's how I might remember the name. Now, she's sort of in the news for a strange, confusing reason. She's 41 years old. She's British, in case those are not familiar. And she's well respected by her peers, even though she's like under the pop culture radar, like not super popular amongst her acting peers today, but she's not by no means less of a good actor. She's very good, in fact. But she did star alongside Nicolas Cage, uh, play the role of his wife in a movie, character named Mandy, I think. Anyway, it's in a movie called Leslie, To Leslie, I should say, directed by Michael Morris. It stars Riseborough as a title character. Oh yeah, so to be clear, this whole controversy is about Andrea Riseborough, who starred in a movie called To Leslie, directed by Michael Morris, as a title character. It's like hard drinking West Texan who won the lottery years ago and used all her money immediately and ruined all of her relationships, and it frustrated her friends and family, and they don't know what to do to help her and all that good stuff. So, and try to help her get out of rock bottom. It sounds, and it's sounds like a sounds like a pretty good premise. I can't lie. It debuted in the South by Southwest Film Festival last March, even alongside some high profile films like, of course, Everything Everywhere All at Once, which has gotten awards, especially just recently at the Screen Actor Guild's Awards. Sorry. And To Leslie has received really critical praise, positive reactions, and so forth. And that's all fine. But the thing is, from its October release, box office earnings, um, as a result, were like less than $38,000 during that time. So it's fine. So why am I mentioning this movie? Because there was a late Oscar vote where all of a sudden her name was nominated for Best Actress for her role in that movie. And even a podcaster by the name of Mark Moran accused the film's distributor, Momentum Pictures, for gross incompetence on Twitter and failing to submit the film for awards consideration, for different ceremonies other than just Oscars and Screen Actors Guilds and Golden Globes and so forth. But, Oscar race takes some time. So of course, when people like Kate Winslet, Edward Norton, Jennifer Aniston, Charlize Theron have all publicly been very supportive of this movie, somehow it got considerable amount of attention and really a possible consideration for her to be nominated in the role for To Leslie as Best Actress. So this is why the whole thing started. There was like an investigation from the Academy Awards of how the whole voting process was done. So it's a bit weird. And industry watchers have noted that soliciting votes is often done to a level of the playing field, bringing attention just for small budget, little known films. When some movies don't really get a lot of consideration, especially when they're very small budget compared to today's films that, at a budget like, if not a billion, let's say like 700 million, $800 million budget films, especially since they're going to be blockbuster and a lot of the attention will be on both special effects and visual effects. It's expected something like this would happen. But of course, it's really great that even smaller budget films that not a lot of people run to the movie theaters to see really get a lot of attention. Like this one movie with Colin Farrell, the Inisherin, the Banshee of Inisherin, something like that. I might get the title wrong, but it's just another great example, So reacting to the whole thing, she had an interview recently with the Hollywood Reporter for the first time since the whole incident. She did say, It's been confusing and wonderful. The film's getting seen. I suppose it's really bright ray of light. When any of us engage in anything, we want for that piece of work to be absorbed in some way. You can't control how people absorb it. That was just marvelous. Recalls Tuleze director Michael Morris, and that's kind of what social media does. It is a platform for people to touch base with the people that follow them and say in enthusiasm, check this out. People can pick up those threads and then they can amplify them if they like it. When it got through to me that so many people were reaching out with personal, passionate responses about the film, Riseborough says, I was very moved because the subject matter is very important to me, and I believe in the message of the film. She also said, there was a lot of chatter beforehand in those few days leading up to the nomination, but the very realistic part of me has been doing this for 20 years, didn't think this would happen. I don't think that you dare to allow yourself to imagine that would happen to something that you shot in 19 days. Wow. Is she really saying that this movie was filmed in 19 days? Maybe that's why it didn't take a lot of money for it. I don't know. Got a bit of a surprise. I doubt a movie like this needed 19 days, but then again, it didn't need green screens or whatever now, blue screens, or being on a set, or I don't know, whatever it is, like just all natural locations. That's pretty impressive to make everything like as authentic as possible without needing so much visual work and all kinds of visual effects studios. But that's impressive in itself. It not only makes sense that this conversation would be sparked, but it isn't necessary. The film industry is abhorrently unequal in terms of opportunity. I'm mindful not to speak for the experience of other people because they are a better place to speak, and I want to listen. Yeah, I respect her. I'm going to respect her for those opinions. She's right that a movie like this, a subject matter, as she said, does matter to her. So many people can relate when they hit rock bottom, emotionally, financially as well. It's important for them. It's important to get the message spread out. It's real life matters. It's just a hard subject, but it's real life. And, I respect her for just being very open and honest and just taking us through how confused she was, like her emotional state as well. Just kind of like why something like this, a movie like this, really meant a lot to her, that it got so much attention. And you know what? I haven't seen it yet, but yeah, it's definitely got my attention now. I'd say, like, given the time, I'd be like, yeah, why not? I'd go check it out. Sure. I mean, you don't lose much other than precious time, but even that precious time is well used for a very strong and important film like this. Alright, guys and gals, that pretty much wraps it up for the Films at Pixels podcast, episode 31. If you have watched and listened from beginning to end, whether it's on YouTube or on your preferred streaming platform like Spotify and Andrea, again, I would like to thank you so much for your time. It means a lot to me that you make an effort just to pay attention and listen to whatever I have to say, whatever topics I just like to talk about. Again, thank you so much. It's very, I'm just kind of at a loss for words for any of you that just cared to listen. Thank you. If you haven't done so before, I will remind you again, like, comment, subscribe, follow, like the social media pages, follow, they're all available. Subscribe to the audio streaming channels. Please subscribe to the YouTube channel. Share this video to any of your friends and family. It'd mean a lot. Thank you so much. And, good day and good night.